Hi, everybody. In this next lesson, we're going to cover communication. We're going to cover serial communication from our Arduino board to our P5 sketch. And so we've been using serial communication this whole time, but we haven't really talked about it. Anytime you plug in something through a USB port and plug it into your computer, you're using serial communication. So it's universal serial bus, USB. But now we're going to use it instead of just reading data straight to our serial monitor, which is what we were doing before. We're going to be able to read it straight into our P5 sketch, so that if I turn this potentiometer here, I'll be able to see something update in the P5 sketch. And then in the next lesson, we're going to see how do we do something in our P5 sketch and then make something happen on our board. So for this video, the only thing with a circuit that you need to have set up is a potentiometer. So I have all this other stuff from another example, but the only thing you need is some sort of analog continuous input, so like a pot. For the next video, you'll need a LED, so you may as well get that one set up. Okay, so let's look over at the GitHub. Okay, so for this example, we're going to look at the serial to P5 setup. Okay, so all the code need for this is going to be in this folder. So this is the GitHub that we've been using. So you just click on serial to P5 setup. And then this is a README file that's going to explain how to do all of this. I'm going to go through it, but it'll be this will just be some text for you to go through later. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is just like get this repository. You can download my entire one and then just open this folder. So to help with this communication, we need an extra library and an extra program to get the serial communication, once it gets on your computer, to actually point towards the P5 sketch. So the thing that we need to do is look at this library. It's called p5.serialport. So open this link right here. Okay, so this is what sends the serial data into P5, right? So it's a library that enables communication between your P5 sketch and Arduino, or back and forth. So the first thing that you need is an application that actually helps that to happen. So the best thing to do now is to get this serial control app. So you can open it. This is where you get it at the releases page. You click on the latest one, beta 1.2. Then you pick a version depending on your computer. So Darwin X64 is for Mac, Linux is for Linux, Windows is for Windows. So I haven't tested this version on Linux or Windows, but this library has been around for a while, so I'm hoping that they work pretty well. So I'm going to go back. So that's one part of having it. So you need to have that downloaded. And then the other part is that there's a client-side library that needs to be included. So I'll show you how to do this in a second. But the easiest way to do that in your own program is to copy and paste this CDN in whatever HTML of the project that you're working on. If you see it has like CDN.js deliver, this is where it's being hosted. p5.serial server is the project. p5.serial port.js is what's going to receive the information from the GUI program and actually let you use it in your p5 sketch. Also to notice here is that there are a bunch of examples that have their own GitHub repos and also are on the p5 web editor. So if you want to follow along and you wanted to use the p5 web editor, that's totally fine. This is actually the same exact example that I'm going to show locally. So if you wanted to use this example to get everything set up, that's totally fine. Okay. So I am going to now, so now we should talk about how do we set up the Arduino board to actually send data. So we have a potentiometer, and so the easiest thing to do is just to do our analog read serial and then upload. Okay, now it works. And you might want to check just to see that everything's working. Open your serial monitor. Okay, so I'm getting data, it's going up, it's going down, perfect. Now I need to close this, because if that was still running, none of my other serial communication would work. Okay, so that's up. I could close Arduino if I wanted to, because we're not going to need it anymore. The program is on the it's on the board itself. Okay, so now the next thing that we're going to do is I've already downloaded and installed the p5 GUI application, so I'm just going to open it. So have that in a place where you'll remember where it is. And this is what it looks like. And for now, you don't need to touch anything in here. You just have it open and it just works. Okay. So in VS Code, I'm in the folder of serial to p5 setup. So the first thing is we should just look at the index, and I just want to show you what we've added here. So we have our normal p5 script tag. We have a sketch script tag, and then we have another script tag that is referring to that that CDN that I mentioned earlier. So this is required. It's required to have this client code to receive what you're getting from the p5 serial control app. So you need two new things on your computer to get this to work: the p5 serial control app and this client side code. If you're missing one of those two things, it won't work. And it was important that I ran the Arduino code first, because you cannot run. So let me just show you. If I try to upload this while so sometimes if you already have a connection, I think that, let's see. I'm gonna open up this project. And now it's running. And I just want to show that we're having some sort of an error. Yeah, path is not defined. Okay, that if all these things are open and I try to compile the sketch, we might get an error. Well, we're not getting an error right now. Okay, so I guess that's good. But it's always a good practice just to do your Arduino sketch first and then do this other stuff. Okay, so this is running. Now I'm going to look over at the sketch itself. The first thing that you need to do is we have a port name variable, and the port is basically saying I have these different serial things that have been available to use before. The one that I want to use is the one that's coming from the Arduino. So what you need to do is just go over to this line. It's always going to say something like USB modem and then some number. You're going to copy this whole line and then paste it in here. So it will be different for yours. Well, it might be different for yours. So don't just assume that it's going to be the same as mine. You're going to go to port name, paste that in there. Okay. So now within the code, within the setup function, we're going to start a new p5.serial port. This code comes directly from that client-side code that we just imported. So if you don't import the client-side code, you're not going to have access to the new p5.serial port. Okay. And then that constructor function gives us access to these other elements. So p5, so serial list is going to list all the ports that are available. Serial.open is very important. This is the first place that you use your port name variable. So you're going to open the port that this, you're going to open the port that your Arduino is actually connected on. This next method is saying when you're connected, what do you do? You're going to run a function called server connected, and we can look down here. All it does is print something to the console. This next one is going to say when you get when we get a list of possible serial ports, we're going to print the list. And then when we start getting some data from here, we're going to run a function called getData. This is the most important line here, line 34. When we start getting data, we're going to run a function called getData. There's other ones, if we get an error, or what happens for getOpen, it's just print line. But the most important thing we want to look at down here is getData. This is where everything happens in our sketch. So here is a method on the serial library called readLine. If we look over at our Arduino code, we can see that we're taking in the sensor value from the potentiometer, and then we're using this function called serial.println. So you want to think about println on the Arduino and readLine in your P5 sketch as sort of matching methods. Basically, what println does is that's different than just print or write, is it prints something to the serial monitor and then adds a new line after it. And the important thing about the new line is this divides up the data so that it can be read by someone else. So if you didn't have a print line, if you didn't have a new line at the end, it would be difficult to tell where one piece of data started and the other one ended. So it's a way of keeping the data sort of in sync. So we assign this each new line to a variable called current string. We just trim it to remove white space. If we don't get anything, we just return. So if current line return is false, we break out of this function. We're gonna print it to the console, and then we're going to make the current string equal latest data. So latest data is just going to be the variable that we have that we know we've done all this other stuff to it that makes sure that it's like sanitized. Okay, so latest data is now what we can use to actually do something with. So what we're going to do is just draw it as text. So text, latest data. Okay, now we saw waiting for data, and then we saw it just, once we got data, now we can see a number. So if you're seeing a number, then everything's working. And you did everything in the correct order. And so what you want to do is check it. It might help to look at the console, but you'll be seeing the same thing. So if you're not seeing something writing to your page, definitely open the console and see if you have any errors, because you might have an error. Check to see that you've uploaded the correct sketch to your board. Check to see that your I'm not sure why this is so slow. Check to see that your GUI application is open. If it's not open, it seems like I'm getting some slowing down here. I'm not sure why. There's some lag, but there we go. Now it's working. Okay, so I was having a weird problem where my browser was slowing down. So what I did was just open up a different browser. I restarted the p5.serial control program, and now everything is working a little bit better. You may have to do that, just you know. So now that this data is in P5, we can do anything we want with it. So I can use it to draw something. I can say maybe I want this rec to be at 2020, and then I want this data to be the width, and I want it to be at least 10. And now our potentiometer is going to let us Okay, I'm back. I'm having some computer problems because of the video recording, probably. Okay, so I have used this new data coming in to map the width of a rectangle so that it looks like a little like status bar, sort of. Okay, and so you'll remember that the data that's coming in from the potentiometer by default is between 0 and 123. Um, and so if we want that data to be in a different range, we need to map it. And so p5 has the same map function that Arduino has. So we can say rect width equals map, latest data is the input. We're going to say we know the range is between 0 and 123. And then the range that I want it to be at least 10 with, and then up to 800. And so now I can go over here and see that I can still print to the screen, and then I can use my mapped width to control this. Okay, that's all for now. I'll see you in the next recording.